is odd because I pretty much considered myself a sales and marketing trainer and speaker. But my whole, if I look way back in the 90s, I tried to write a book, which is interesting. I found the manuscript called The Power Connection, because my goal was always the purest form of engagement. And it got deeper and deeper than just communication. At first it was communication and connection, and then from connection it went to engagement, and then engagement, as I started to study engagement, both, from a physical and a metaphysical, and, engagement is not something you get, it's something someone gives. So, the whole E equals is engagement squared. I mean, it's deep engagement. And when it really started to crystallize, to use one of your words, I was doing these programs at Pepperdine University, which are pro bono for 17-year-olds. Well, you want to be terrified, try to connect with 17-year-olds. And you look like this because they think you should be dead many years.
Exactly.
And it's pro bono, and I'm doing it with people like George Foreman and Kathy Ireland and Jocko Willnick and me. And they can vote you off the island every time.
Wow.
And now I'm going on my 4th or 5th year and I'm one of the second speakers, which I'm not the fun one. I'm not the Tim Gard. I'm not the Mike Rayburn with the guitar. I'm the Murph. So, interesting, that
you definitely honed your humor for sure.
Well, the humor part is not just designed to be edutainment, but so it interrupts their patterns as they write the conversation from conversational intelligence. So they look at you and they write a story, and they're 17 years old, so their pantry is fairly uncluttered, as opposed to somebody who's 40 or 50. And as they assess who they think you are, you start revealing the parts of you that are vulnerable to let them know that everybody has this unique DNA, which is part of the engagement process. And then I actually hang around a few days. Some observations are that they, because they're chosen out of 1,200 applicants, and only 200 make it, and they really pretty much strip them of who we are. They don't know the coaches, who they are, who's connected, who's not. They give you very little background. They don't talk about who you are, what you've done. None of it, of course, is ever relevant anyway, but it keeps giving us that pantry information to put us in some kind of a box. So from a leadership standpoint, it's really, from my point, always a place of love and safety. And so when you can communicate that from a platform to complete strangers in less than 45 minutes, to 17-year-olds who have limited exposure and are all about trying to be safe, it's a challenge. So that has helped me with the engagement process. It's also helped me figure out that that at that point, there's a lot about ego. I mean, that's who you are, how you look, how you present yourself.
Absolutely.
What's beautiful in that moment. And one of the points I try to bring forward is that there is, the physical part is what they assess first, but there's another whole part that they're about to learn. So you can't, as you know, tell a 17-year-old
no
anything, especially when you look like this. And so it's been a very humbling and deeply it pulls from deep inside for me as a connection I'd like to call it somebody who specializes in connection. And I practice it all the time, Connie. I mean, I practice where it doesn't count, to quote a few people. And that's where there's 17,000 people checking into a basketball game, and I will connect with that ticket taker in less than 3 seconds on a totally different level. And it always astounds the people around me, but it's because there's a gift in there. And so leadership, and I've been doing a lot of that I mean, like almost exclusively, which is surprising to me, but I've been working with graduate leaders in and outside of our industry, which is very surprising how much segues over, because, you know, in Awesome Females in Real Estate, we're in real estate.
Right.
And I've been in it long enough, and you've been in it long enough to know that real estate is the metaphor, because it's totally a trust issue. I mean, somebody's plunking down a ton of money, not just for a physical place to live, but their whole family, you know, their whole life is going to be in that box that you help them find. And you know more about it than they do because your boots on the ground. So that's where that hyper local thing comes in, and expertise comes in, and how vested are you in communication skills, presentation skills, data that will help them make an informed decision. Not like a sandwich at lunch that they didn't like, they can send back. So there's a profound responsibility with any leadership, but leadership has transformed from content dumping to content transformation.
Oh, yes.
And you know that probably better than anybody else. And part of that is about, I know enough now about how people don't process words that are representative, you know, they're utterances that create a symbol in your head that give you an idea of, but creates that feeling. So leadership has to really be, in my opinion, soul driven. And we as leaders are as much a facilitator as we grab the collective intelligence and perspective of the group, whether it's 17-year-olds or grumpy old people. So, and I know why we're grumpy. I'm saying that as things just aren't like they were. But so for anybody that would be interested in the interview, it's about, we walk a very specific and unique trail in this thing we call life, and those that we touch are profoundly influenced either way, in ways that go beyond our knowing. And for me, my responsibility is always, does it help? And I can't like make you eat broccoli and meditate and run so that you feel better, but you can learn from my perspective, which is uniquely my own. And I try to respect that in everyone that I work with. And as a speaker, and you know this, you have to be you're the focus of a group, whether it's 5 or 250 or 1100, of how they're perceiving that leadership, and where their value system is with core values, and how they want to live their life, and how does that influence or not. So it's huge.
Tell us a little bit about your TED Talk.
Yes. I was quite sure they had made a mistake about what Terri they were pursuing, because, you know, I get to hang with some pretty big time influencers, and they called, and I said, I'm sure you meant Dr. Terri Paulson, because Dr. Terri and I share the platform, and it's, you know, he's the one with almost as much facial hair. And so, no, they're like, no, you're the girl. I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. And they said, well, no, we want you. And I'm thinking, they've made a terrible mistake. And then they told me that it was for 17-year-olds, about 1,100 of them. I had all I could do not to freak out completely. First of all, the honor of doing something at that level, and then to be that profound influencer in a period of time. I mean, the responsibility to me is just ginormous. So people said to me, well, how long did it take you to create that talk? And I said, well, about 40 years, because in 14 minutes or less, and you know, you look back and think, well, I should have done this, I could have done that, but you know, it is what I delivered. And to me, part of it was, you know, being channeled, because I I hadn't planned on doing some of the material that came out, but it was and continues to be one of my own personal I mean, it was never a goal. I never even thought about it, but it was certainly one of my most profound gifts. Again, because I had to pull from places I had no idea I had places.
Don't you think that that is a, when you can pull from that space, something comes out that you don't even know is in there. And that's like when I wrote Crystalline Moments. I had stuff come out that I had no idea was buried. So I understand completely what you're saying. And especially if you're going to be talking to a bunch of 17-year-olds and you can truly make a difference in their lives with your life, that's profound.
Again, we get to walk this trail, and you know, we interpret the good, the bad, or the whatever we think is not beautiful. But there's just a profound gift in every single moment. But we're so busy, especially in real estate. I make a lot of jokes about, you know, it being a shot collar business because we're always being jerked around because of the nature of the business. But in the highest purpose of our life, I mean, you're helping people. I just connected with a client from a long time ago. I won't quote the years. And I, you know, I don't actively sell right now, but they found me. And thought I was going to Dallas. Let's see, we have a baby.
Sorry, my dog is barking. I'm out.
I know. I'd love to see the dog, but anyway, you know, they wanted to connect, and I mean, think about that. You sell, you know, and I've worked with them several times, but got to see them again, and just, my God, it just warms your heart to see people that you've helped somewhere. They've raised that family that I helped, you know, put in that house, and they have babies, and so it was totally rewarding. But I think if there's anything that comes with leadership, it's really not about what they get, but it's what you get. And for me, it's the profound gratitude of what I learned from them. So I don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah, I think we learn so much when we give. We learn so much from that. And what a gift it is for us to take it back with us, to have that experience. And I met you for the first time about 12 years ago.
Was it 12 years? Why?
Yeah,
wow.
It'll be 12 years. It's 12 years this year. Because you were at the very first Awesome Females that I ever went to. And
Really?
I remember we were on a bus. We
Oh,
were
God.
sitting next to one another. We were headed off to a restaurant. And you struck me as one of the most insightful women I had ever met at that point.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've never forgotten the conversation that we had. We had a very intense, incredible conversation. You were so encouraging of this new path that I was on. And I guess I don't think I've ever even said thank you, but so thank you for that.
You know, here's what's interesting to me. You know how things just keep showing up? You start paying attention at a certain part of the runway when they show up, because, you know, they just, and I just got another, I mean, I've gotten like 3 in a week from women, younger women, you know, the kind that don't realize they're not fat and they're cute already. Okay, they're at that spot. Asking me to help them with their next steps. And I would love to tell you, you know, I'm a business consultant. I help people organize their businesses, their messaging, their communication. I mean, the first 3, I'm like, yeah, whatever, they're friends, they're daughters of friends. But then now it's just, they just keep coming. And I'm saying to myself, tell me what I'm supposed to be doing already here, because I never had kids on purpose, right? I figured if I couldn't manage plants, I wasn't going to go any farther than that. And I saw aliens, so that was out of the question. It's just an interesting revelation lately. And I think that what this says, Connie, is that, you know, one of the things that I have obviously invested enormous amount of time in is understanding the behavioral quadrants, because again, it's part of the engagement process, is how do we how do we connect with someone in a way that's gracious and works for collaboration versus you know, non-collaboration, especially, I mean, gender, you know, I make a lot of fun of that, but generational is wildly important, but behavioral is pivotal. And so what I'm seeing here from a generational dynamic is that there is value and there is immense value to this group who's looking to this group. So, you know, that 30 to 40-year-old is looking to somebody who's older on how to navigate where they want to go. And again, like you said, it was a bus ride. Again, going beyond your knowing. I can't, you know, and so when people say, oh, I remember something you said, I'm like, oops, what could that be? And who was I making fun of that week? You know, because some people I've learned do not get snarky Italian Chicago behavior, but I just got 3 more this week. I'm thinking, you know, Murph, you know, maybe you should be selling cupcakes. What?
I said, there's something out there for you, waiting for you to show up.
Yeah, apparently. So I guess deeply grateful for everything, and deeply grateful. And my sister and I were having that discussion this morning because my family obviously was not born here. I'm first generation, and we think about people with the event that just happened in my family, and witnessing a quality of life that is not even, it's so substandard, so substandard to what we enjoy in this country. And I think that, you know, especially with thinking that millennials or they're entitled or whatever, well, excuse me, we're living in their time, they never lived in ours. And so again, that pantry is not loaded.
I have to interrupt you. Say that one more time.
We're living in their time, they never lived in ours. And
that is profound.
Well, thank you, but it's not probably for me. You can't understand that you never had to get water other than from a faucet, or that a television only had 5 channels and you actually had to physically get up to change it. So to belittle them or to criticize them because this is a normal for them is really inappropriate, just as we were told, you know, that our parents walked through the snow without shoes to school 20 miles. I mean, we can appreciate this, but we never lived it. And so
exactly.
I think that we all need to be more empathetic. I think I'm not a big Bible person. All these Southern people will smack me upside the head, but you know, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they do. They have no other place to compare. And so I think that it always goes back to extreme gratitude. Profound gratitude for everything, little things, running water, standing in a shower, getting a shower, a roof over your head, gasoline, you know, heat, fresh air. I mean, you know, there's so many things that we are often, we're grateful for, but not conscious of. So I would say as a leader, I study other leaders, not for the how to, but the why to, and the, you know, new ways.
How long have you known Bernice Ross?
You know, I was sick of hearing about Bernice Ross. That's all I heard about was Bernice Ross. And I'll never forget the first time I actually met her. And, you know, she is another blonde. So we have that whole thing in my shtick about tall blondes. And she's a freaking PhD. And she's beautiful. And she's articulate as hell and accomplished as hell. And the closest I can get to Beverly Hills is waving at it. But anyway, that's when she started. I was going down an escalator in Washington, D.C. at NAR 100 years ago. And there's this stunning woman in a royal blue dress at the foot. And somebody goes, oh, you need to meet Bernice Ross. And I'm like, I'm sick of hearing about you. Okay, I'm just sick about hearing about how fabulous you are and awesome females in real estate. So it has to go back, God, in the teens, let's just put it that way. But I was blessed to meet her and to work with her. And basically,
you were one of the originals at Awesome Females, right?
Yeah, I was, and I didn't know anything. I mean, I never, you know, I'm very careful about the female things because I want it to never be not inclusive. My own network that I have is totally collaborative. As a matter of fact, I have a whole segment And I bought the URL, by the way, called In the Men's Room, because I believe that gender brings a perspective, as does generational, as does behavioral, as does a number of things. And so I applauded her for helping women identify the best part of themselves.
And isn't that what really awesome females? I mean, all these years now, it's really profound how it's grown into such a intimate but yet safe place for women to share their thoughts, and especially because the women are all in leadership positions, so they don't usually have another female or another woman to get that perspective.
Or a safe place. I mean, when you're a leader, I mean, everybody assumes that you've got all the answers and that you're the strong one, but everybody needs a little help. And women, especially, after I did the 247 interviews for the book Smart Women, Smarter Choices, I'm interviewing Miss Americas. I mean, they have the crown and the sash and the whole thing. I'm CEOs of major companies. Everybody has, everybody's perfectly imperfect. And when you allow that, to me, the main issue is vulnerability. When
Absolutely.
you show your vulnerability, that's a major engagement invitation, because it says, look, here's where I'm not perfect. And here's where anything you can do to help me with that would be so appreciated.
So if you had a piece of advice for someone that is thinking about coming to Awesome Females, what would it be?
Good question. My first thought was bring your best self and realize that self is totally unique and priceless and unduplicatable, and brings a piece of a puzzle that no one else has. So being there can help you complete your puzzle.
That's awesome. Awesome.
No pun intended.
No pun intended, exactly. So, well, Terri, thank you so much for joining me, and I really appreciate you taking your time. And I'm going to turn this off at the moment. Turn off the